That's right. It is time for your keynote speaker. He is the best-selling author of Non-Bullshit Innovation, a leading speaker on how emerging technologies will impact business and how leaders should prepare for the future starting now. He's an investor in more than 180 early-stage tech companies, and his passions span from AI and digital platforms to anonymous systems. He regularly speaks on the future of travel and aviation. And today, over 800 keynotes later, he has been tasked with the challenge to inspire and push our thinking even further. Please welcome founding editor-in-chief, Wired's UK edition, David Rowan.
I'm feeling quite emotional, and not just because of David's inspirational presentation, but for me, this feels like coming home to family, because I am a super user. I just counted last year, I took 140 flights. And I also have a little side project running a small fund investing in climate tech, and I try not to tell those people that I took 140 flights because there's a bit of a conflict. But I travel because we're at this extraordinary moment where things are moving so fast and industries are all grappling with the same challenges. So I try and keep up with what's happening with the AI companies, going to the research labs, talking to big established industrial organizations to see how they are coping, whether they're the insurance company, the manufacturing company, the fertilizer company, because everybody is facing radically challenging questions. I have two life skills. One, I can sleep in economy, and two, I've learned to pack for a whole week in the under-seat bag. Even Ryanair dimensions. So far, they haven't got the €50 gate fine. But I'm not here to talk about technology. I'm here to talk about love, emotion, connectedness as a human, because the opportunity for every aspect of the SITA ecosystem is these technology tools enable you to make people like me, the passenger, more emotionally delighted, more engaged in the moment. Enable me to feel this is something special. And if I think about when I feel these deep wow emotions in traveling, often it's technology-led. That first time I came through Dubai airport and the smart gates surprised me by not expecting me to take out my passport. Or that time I was in the departure lounge at Helsinki airport and they had thought about me as a human, that experience. They created a zone with 360-degree screens and audio that made me feel like I was in different forests, different mountains in Finland. Or that time a few months ago, I had a bit of spare time at Terminal 7 at JFK in New York, so I walked over a footbridge to what used to be the TWA terminal that is now the most extraordinary hotel which has thought about that design experience. And I went back to check into my flight with a big grin on my face, because I think that is the power of thinking through with a design mindset how technology can transform how people feel, how you can create that feeling of love. And I don't know when you came through the airport at Nassau, but I've been through here a few times. And often, there's a band or there's an individual musician, and it takes you from exhausted after the 12-hour journey to smiling, to grinning, to thinking, that's a lovely thought. Somebody has thought about this. And then I had to fill in the landing form in longhand and wait 20 minutes for the 24-year-old guy at the desk to copy everything I had filled in and type it with one finger into the computer. But it was okay. I said to him, "You're going to be okay. SITA is in town." Because we are in a moment where the basic passenger expectation is magic should just happen. And if you think about our lives through apps, we now expect sushi or Mexican food to come within 15 minutes of us ordering. And we complain if it's 16 minutes. We expect any song from anywhere to be available in seconds. And not just that, we want the algorithm to tell us what else we as that individual are going to love, what we should discover. We want to get somewhere, and we don't want to have to deal with the friction of catching that human-driven car or driving ourselves. Now we have technology that can get us there with 90% fewer accidents, and these autonomous cars are rolling out. I think
It drives better than you do, babe.
this is a crazy moment where magic is embedding into every experience by expectation, especially travel. And so the air experience can't slow down because these technologies are already being used by other industries. And I'm just thinking how much I'm taking for granted today that didn't exist 6 months ago. I now have a personal doctor. ChatGPT has just launched its health program, which will look at my blood data, which will give me increasingly credible, reliable, clinically valid suggestions. People's behavior is changing in crazy new ways. I was reading about how young people are now dating, and they are uploading their whole chat histories with the other person and asking ChatGPT to analyze the relationship, break down their attachment styles, and advise them how to message to keep going. Hey, all my friends are doing this now. And of course, we want to be in charge. We don't care what the system says. We want to track our individual bag. We want that confidence, that knowledge. So there's a few things that I, as a passenger, have been trained to expect. I want to be in full control. It should just work. There should be nothing in my way. I should be told instantly if something has been adjusted. It's the friction of plane cancelled, where do you go, who do you see? Everything is instant notification in my real life. Where is that communication? Because those human emotions, that anxiety, diminishes when I have information. When I know I have to wait 10 minutes for that bus, it's okay. It's not a surprise. I have had that expectation managed. And the last C is I need to be confident that the system is thinking of me, is looking after me, that I can trust, which I think is where the magic of technology empowers Team SITA like never before. Because this should no longer exist. This should not be a challenge, and this certainly should be minimized. And I spend a bit too much time on the Reddit forums, and if you want to see people complaining about the friction, about when things don't work, about the nightmare experiences. And it makes me think a lot about this word, which has quite an interesting etymology. It goes back to a three-pronged torture instrument that the Romans used called the tripalium. 3 poles. And over time, this idea of the torture enabled by the tripalium became travail, work. Travel in the Middle Ages, moving around, was so difficult. And it's this emotional anxiety that still exists that I think technology can help us take to zero. But what's accelerating as a solution is obviously AI. But it's not just AI. There's a bunch of other interconnected technologies that are moving incredibly fast that are going to work together. And we are just at the beginning of those curves. If you think about how large language models learn by monitoring how you're reacting to their work, the same thing is happening in robotics. And it's happening right now. Google Gemini has just released a new version of its robot training tool. And the robots are learning how to be more adaptive.
Hey, Aloha, let's play a game. So I have a scene in front of you. I'm gonna make some secret changes. You'll have to figure out what they are and then reset the scene back to the original state. Reset the scene.
Based on the changes, first I will close the laptop. Next, I will close the glasses case. Now I will put the green pen back into the brown tray.
So what we're seeing here is what we've started to call embodied reasoning, the ability of Gemini to recognize space and time and changes
Embodied
and
reasoning.
planning and understanding progress.
We wouldn't have heard of embodied reasoning 6 months ago. And the same is happening in the sky, at least with drones. This is a display that just got into the Guinness Book of Records in Chengdu in China. 12,000 drones controlled by AI for a light show. Again, this is sci-fi, but it's happening now. And it's being commodified. And let me play you a song that recently debuted on the Billboard chart.
I thought pain was part of being chosen. If he stayed, then the hurt was worth holding.
AI. The voice, the composition, the video. Sania Monet is a pop star with no physical embodiment. But that's just where things are going. And what's kind of wonderful, but also a bit scary, is these tools are democratized. They're in everybody's hands. And the cost of entry is heading to zero. There is an artist who lives in Brooklyn called Billy Woodward, who a couple of months ago wanted to see if he could make a Pixar quality animation in just a week using the tools that you and I can use. This is what he came up with. So this is generative AI, and it's one relatively narrow part of AI. But think about what our expectation was about professional Pixar quality is now in your hands, my hands, our kids' hands. And the cost has pretty much disappeared. What do we then start to expect next? And you can have some fun. If you haven't been playing with a lot of these tools, you need to start playing. There's an AI researcher called Ethan Molik who starts giving prompts to some of these AIs. There was one that came out last year called VO3, and he asked it to compose a Broadway musical with the animation, with the video, on the theme of garlic bread. This is what it came up with.
Garlic bread, my heart's true desire. With every bite, my soul.
And then he said, no, forget the Hollywood Broadway quality. Let's do amateur dramatics, doing some Shakespearean performance, again about garlic bread.
Hey, nonny, nonny, 'tis time for thy garlic bread.
Crazy. And we're even getting memes where AI-generated characters start fighting back at the idea that they were created by a prompt. They're fighting what's known now as prompt theory.
Honestly, the biggest red flag is when the guy believes in the prompt theory. Like, really? We came from prompts? Wake up, man.
You want to convince me that this perfect creation behind me is the result of ones and zeros? A binary code and nothing more? It makes no sense.
So
Imagine you're in the middle of a nice
I
date
promise
with a
you,
handsome man
I'm not a
and he
deep
believes in the
fake,
prompt theory.
nor a humanoid robot.
We just can't have nice things.
But what fascinates me is now any of us can write code, can build an app with no specialist knowledge. Vibe coding. Has anybody here vibe coded? The idea that you tell an app like Replit, like Cursor, like Lovable, what you want it to build and what kind of vibe you want it to have. And you use normal English or Spanish or Portuguese language, and it will deliver. Replit has, I think, 40 million users at the moment. Again, things that were not credible half a year ago are now magic.
Make a multiplayer flight simulator that's going to make me rich. See, this is all just hype. Engineers are not going anywhere. You can't just one-shot a flight simulator. It's magic! Engineers are going away soon!
So when I started editing Wired magazine, which is a magazine that tries to understand where the future is going, not just with tech and science, but design and human behavior, somebody sent me this photograph from 1956 and said, this is going to define the stories you're looking for. And it's 5 megs of IBM computer storage being uploaded to the cloud, which, if you think about it, today is one photo on your iPhone. Because Moore's law, because those exponential curves, over time, not just computer processing and storage goes to zero, but these curves are hitting every aspect of technology. This is a logarithmic scale showing over the last 50 years the cost of solar energy basically going from expensive to zero, which transforms the economics of any kind of energy business. This is the falling cost of lithium-ion batteries over the last 35 years. Packy McCormick just wrote a very interesting long essay looking at a lot of these exponentials. 99% cost reduction. Or this one, the falling cost of electric motors per kilowatt. We are still on that curve. It's getting cheaper, more available, more ubiquitous. And that means something that was scarce and expensive over time is going to be ubiquitous and free. And once you start to notice these curves, you'll realize, however comfortable we are at a certain point of the curve, we're going to have to get used to rapid change. This one from just over a year ago is the man from NVIDIA launching one of their latest chips. And the graph behind him shows that in the previous 8 years, the computational power of NVIDIA chips went up 1,000-fold. And that curve is still rising. And what do these curves mean for our expectations? For what enables new kinds of business competitors? So this is, over the last quarter century, the ability of AI to perform a task that previously only a human could perform. That black horizontal line is as good as a human. And if you look at the left, the blue line is recognizing handwriting, starting at the turn of the century. And it took a while. It took about till 2012 for the computer to get as good as a person. But look on the right, almost vertical, in orange, generating computer code. In green, common sense understanding. And you can never bet against lines that are heading towards vertical, because what the day before yesterday was a bit meh, this is the quality of mid-journey images over about 18 months, tomorrow becomes, oh my goodness, we don't need a photographer, we can generate this marketing campaign. And the smartest people working on AI, such as this gentleman, who is a researcher at Anthropic, but was the first name in a lot of the DeepMind AlphaGo academic papers, are concerned that we don't get how quickly things are advancing. And Julian published a blog post a few weeks ago saying it's a bit like January 2020, when we had all the data saying there was a pandemic, and that the media was in denial. Oh, it's going to be local, it's not going to be big. And he was saying, today, the conversation is, well, AI is just hype, and ChatGPT's unreliable. It's not going to have a big impact. We are blind to the immediate potential of these tools. They're changing things now, and especially tomorrow. And if you look at how these language models are advancing, this is a logarithmic scale, but basically each version of a large language model is getting better and better and able to do a length of task that's doubling every 7 months or so. And this is ChatGPT making a claim, this is OpenAI, which jobs are going to be next where automation allows a performance as good as the best professional, which makes people a bit anxious. But I think it also liberates us to do the higher level jobs, the feeling jobs, the jobs that enable love and delight. But of course, we can't rest here, because what's happening next? What's happening 5 years from now? Superintelligence. This is Eric Schmidt.
One way to say this is that within 3 to 5 years, we'll have what is called general intelligence, AGI, which can be defined as a system that is as smart as the smartest mathematician, physicist, artist, writer, thinker, politician. It gets much more interesting after that. Because remember, the computers are now doing self-improvement. They're learning how to plan, and they don't have to listen to us anymore. We call that superintelligence, or ASI, artificial superintelligence. And this is the theory that there will be computers that are smarter than the sum of humans. The San Francisco consensus is this occurs within 6 years, just based on scaling. This path is not understood in our society. There's no language for what happens with the arrival of this. That's why it's underhyped.
So we have to be able to unlearn what we've learned, to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because whilst AI is advancing, so are the humanoid robots. There's even a new kind of job. Have you heard about the arm farms? companies like Figure AI need data on how humans do things with their arms, so they're paying people in India to wear the GoPros and film themselves, so that can be fed in. There was a concert by this superstar in China in December with a bunch of humanoid robots on stage doing the dancing. And how big is it going to get? I can't tell you. But there's a very successful venture capitalist, Vinod Khosla, who predicts this particular bit of the industry is going to become bigger than the car industry within just a handful of years.
Those humanoid robots will be a larger market in the next 15, 20 years than all of the auto business. If I'd suggested 5, 7 years ago that Tesla would be more valuable than the next 10 auto companies combined, and I know their stock price has been going down, everybody would have laughed with me. They will laugh today if I say the humanoid robotics business will be larger than the auto business in the next 20 years. People don't give it much credibility, but I'm almost certain
could be happening in the skies. Well, there's all sorts of amazing tech-led innovation happening there. Are we going to have hypersonic travel taking across the planet? This is Elon and his project, which they kind of previewed about 8 years ago, and he tweeted recently that it's ready. Transcontinental in half an hour. I don't know. But reporting, observing on what's happening now, it is science fiction. If you go to Dublin in Ireland, you can now get drones delivering all sorts of things within 3 minutes of your order. If you want to teach your kids new skills, this is an AI tutor that works in, I think, 300 languages. If you want to travel but you're worried about not speaking the language,
I agree, yeah. Let's include the
Eu concordo, sim.
This is the latest AirPod Pros
Vamos incluir as
that allow
principais descobertas na
simultaneous
apresentação
translation
de sexta-feira.
if both of you are wearing. And we're even at that very, very strange time when one-person companies using AI can generate $7 million of recurring annual revenue. That's Seats Aero. And there's a whole bunch of these new companies now. Here's another one, Wave, which will, it's one person, there's no staff. Or this one, design website. Again, it's all using AI, generating more than 1 million. The rules have changed. How you build a scalable business with just one person and no investment, that's changed as well. And yet, I think too many of us are wedded to how things were, what we're used to, our 3-year target from 2 years ago. And I think the barrier is not technology, it's psychology. It's being scared of the benefits that these technologies could offer. Obviously, there's a downside. Obviously, we're anxious about our identity through our work being changed by this and control to the language models being restricted by a few big companies. But in general, it's going to boost productivity. It's going to extend life. It's going to solve medical conditions. But we're still anxious. There's this guy called William Rimmer who put his mother in his Tesla a couple of years ago and switched it to autonomous and recorded her reaction.
It's scary. Oh, there's
it's
cars!
Like, oh my God! Stop this! Stop this!
Cars!
There's a bit of this in all of us.
Feel
because
this? Put me back for me
with
control it. Oh dear Jesus! I could never. Oh, where's it going?
Moving faster than we're comfortable. And you need to be kind of courageous, not in the violent, killing tribe way, but you need to be courageous in taking a stand, in going out there, in pursuing a goal that is meaningful for you. And finally, as David suggested, you're only limited by the constraints of your thinking. So, what if you could ensure, using the data that the AI pulls up, this was the expectation? The idea of a border, it's kind of crazy. We're going through a really interesting time where people are rethinking where a border is. Do we need a border? Why should atoms not be located in the moment? And this, I think, is the ultimate goal, because that's what makes us love, feel satisfied, be in the moment. And I have to say, you're kind of almost there. You're doing it. You're just early in this cycle with so many more opportunities. I mean, I've used your tools to get that sense of delight in many of my thousands of flights. I see how you're thinking. I've talked to lots of people inside SITA. Imagine if you can take this execution to whatever is coming over the next 5 years. But you're doing it. You know, you're using data to deliver execution to the people in that cockpit. When I was in the UAE, I was having a chat with the man leading the Future Foundation, Khalfan Belhoul, and he was saying, what if we didn't even have to have an airport? Because people don't like having to get to the airport, they get anxious. What if in the center of Dubai, you call a cab, they scan your face, they know who you are, they've authenticated you, they drive you straight to the plane? What if? Now, I'm not saying it's going to be that simple, but there, they are authenticating you with one ID. And as the passenger, this is obviously a more delightful experience than having to prove who you are. But this idea of what is a border, it's kind of in flux. I could today, as you could, become an e-resident of Estonia. You don't have to go there. It doesn't give you residency rights, but it means you're a digital citizen. You can start a business in the Eurozone, in Estonia. It's a really interesting way of rethinking what a nation is without physical borders. In my tech circles, there's a growing debate about this notion of the network state. Lots of crypto people really love this. But it's this idea that you can take a physical location. This is one that's raised $500 million. It's called Praxis. And you can use these digital tools to give people an identity. You can use decentralized currencies to create an economy. But you can combine people with common interests. And, you know, what is the place? If we're all digitally identified and connected, who says the old rules of geography have to be tomorrow's rules? There are so many problems, challenges that data plus tech can solve. Sustainability, minimizing pollution being one of them.
Contrail avoidance is very complicated. There's a weather database, which is huge. There's a flight database, which is huge. There's a satellites data, that's also huge. But getting big databases together is something we're good at. Contrail prediction is actually quite difficult because weather forecasts don't do the greatest job predicting humidity that high up. So we're taking sort of a different approach using image recognition and satellite data.
All these satellites take so many images, but we now have the compute ability to process the images. It makes sense in this incredible data set. Kind of like the machine learning algorithms that help pick out a cat or pick out a cappuccino in your photos.
So what I love is there are thousands and thousands of these little bits of friction that tech can solve. These thousands and thousands of efficiencies in making sure that plane minimizes fuel consumption, leaves on time, doesn't lose anything. And we're just at the beginning. And there are startups that are working on this, and the startups, 9 out of 10 of them don't make it, but they take risks. Patrick from the innovation team and I were talking about some of the startups. This one, a bunch of people who seem really young, creating a new kind of cargo business. And he was saying there's about 10 of them. And I was just updating the website yesterday, and there's now about 30 of them. The startups, when they hit product market fit, they grow really quickly. Obviously, you're talking to them, you're partnering with them. But every industry is trying to work out how to use AI. There's a Chinese kitchen company, Fotile, that's putting AI in its ovens that get to know you, that customize recipes and cook for you. If you're pregnant, if you're planning a marathon, if you have a food restriction. Every industry is starting to understand how AI can boost efficiency. This is the boss of Duolingo.
Massive accelerant. And we just released 148 new courses. And it took us only 1 year to do this. For comparison, the previous 100+ courses took us 12 years.
This is, I think, the only barrier. It's thinking like we used to think, thinking everything is linear, thinking we're comfortable with the system we have. And when there's a massive, transformative, new technology about to hit the market, there's often 3 wrong approaches we take. And the first is to be a bit kind of sneering and dismissive, maybe make jokes about it. In 1946, the first proper electric computer was unveiled, and this is how the news reported it.
Are people becoming obsolete? The giant electronic brain is starting cogitating at the University of Pennsylvania. It's made of vacuum tubes like your radio, and it can add up a column of figures a yard long in a second. It's the world's first electronic computer. Right now, it's solving mathematical problems for the U.S. Army, but who knows? Someday a machine like this may check up on your income tax.
Who knows? Someday it may check up on your income tax. The second thing that we often get wrong is we dismiss it as something that's for a kind of narrow group. It's like for this geek group. The spreadsheet. Invented mid-70s. It was seen as some exotic thing for people who work in corporate finance for a while.
This isn't good enough to present. You can't show her this.
Oh, ye of little faith.
I really think she'd buy the bus store.
With a click on the auto format, our superhero shops through several professionally designed formats.
This is the glamour of Microsoft Excel for that elite group, forgetting that pretty soon it would be, for all of us, something we don't even think about. And the third thing we get wrong is we get wedded to our ways of doing things and forget that we're still at day zero of what's coming next. 2007, Steve Jobs announces the iPhone, and the head of a big tech company that made smartphones was asked on television whether he saw this as a threat.
I said, that is the most expensive phone in the world, and it doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard, which makes it not a very good email machine.
How did that work out, Steve Ballmer at Microsoft? So I think this is how we should think about AI, or rather this. It's electricity. It's going to be there. It's going to be ubiquitous, but we won't call it AI, just as I'm not using electricity to tell you a story. It's just there. And we worry that it's going to change our workflow, maybe make us individually vulnerable. I think that's the wrong way to think about it. It's a tool. Ted Sarandon, the head of Netflix, was interviewed in the New York Times, and he was asked, are you going to make an entirely AI series? This is what he said.
There's not a scenario, I don't believe, that an AI program is going to write a better screenplay than a great writer, or going to replace a great performance, or we won't be able to tell the difference. AI is not going to take your job. The person who uses AI well might take your job.
I know a film director, Shekhar Kapoor. He's very accomplished. He's won Oscars and lots of nominations. But he makes movies with hundreds of people on set.
Walter Raleigh, Majesty.
Like Elizabeth.
This man is a pirate. Spain.
And I was saying to him, this must be really worrying for you, the idea that you can just put in some text prompts and create a movie. He said, you're completely wrong. You totally misunderstand. This is the most exciting moment for me as a creative storyteller than any time since I first played with a camera lens. When I am hiring people to work on a movie, I don't care what they did at film school. I want to know how good they are at writing those prompts. I thought, okay, I got it wrong. I assumed that having a human therapist was always going to beat having an AI therapist. And then I saw there's an app that lots of teens, 20-somethings, use to have a personal conversation with an avatar they've created called Replica. And there was an academic study in a mental health journal talking to a couple of thousand people who were using it. And I know a lot of these apps, especially ChatGPT, have been slammed for encouraging people to do bad things. But this one, which is a kind of constrained language model, the researchers found a disproportionately high proportion of people said to them, well, actually, it stopped me self-harming. It gave me somewhere to go, someone to talk to. I thought, I got it wrong. I assumed. Second thing, I think we just have to expect things are going to keep moving, and we are going to keep getting disrupted. And I know what being disrupted feels like. I have been disrupted. I edited a magazine which was on shiny paper. Nobody cares about paper now. Then I wrote a book looking for real innovation, and the publisher Penguin asked me to record the audiobook, so I spent 3 days in a windowless studio in West London, and then I saw there was a startup that could have done it in a couple of minutes.
Imagine turning your book into an audiobook in just 10 minutes. Now you can using audiobook.ai for 10 times less than paying a voice talent. All you have to do is upload your book to audiobook.ai.
And this is obviously a synthetic voice, and I realized I had no economic value. And then I saw there was a startup that could have written the book for me using AI, so I wasted that whole year. But I think all of us have to be comfortable rebuilding because the tools are empowering us to go in new directions. And the third suggestion is look outside the aviation industry to see how other people are using the same tools that they have. Because these tools are becoming generic. Go to that crypto conference and see how they're thinking about things. Go to that human rights event and talk about how they see the opportunity in aviation. Because ideas come together from different angles. That's when real innovation happens. And the place that built the self-driving car, Google X, the moonshot lab of Google, they're obsessed with what they call cognitive diversity. They have teams that are not made up just of physicists and engineers, but they'll bring in somebody who used to be a concert pianist, somebody who used to be a ballerina, because they will ask questions from a different starting point, which creates fresh thinking. There's so much more where you could be making a difference. The multimodal travel that you're already working on. I want to be able to get to that hotel without thinking. involving every stage, from the plane to the taxi to the train. That's something where friction can be taken out of the way because I trust your network just to deliver. That's where I feel love. So I think these are some of the watchwords now. You have to keep asking those questions. You have to be excited about what's happening. You have to be prepared for things not to work, but keep trying. You have to talk to people who you don't normally talk to. Because we are at this moment of the AI rollout. Does anybody remember this? 2007, iPhone comes out. The next year, an app store is launched by Steve. And this was one of the best-selling apps in the first year. We had no idea we would be using apps to watch movies, to have algorithmic slop thrown at us, to do our banking, to do our exercise. We are at 2006 in the YouTube world. We didn't know then that it would be the world's most dominant place to consume video content. It was stuff like this. So nobody knows where these AI tools are going to take us. We just know this is the moment. And it's not too late to start playing. This is Kevin Kelly, the first editor of Wired magazine in the 90s, who wrote a really interesting essay 12 years ago called "You Are Not Late," when he was looking back a generation, 20 years, at the emergence of the consumer internet, the World Wide Web. And this, in the mid-90s, was how you navigated the World Wide Web. Mosaic became Netflix, Netscape. This is Yahoo, a hand-crafted guide to the whole known internet. And he was looking back and saying, well, we thought that was it. We thought the frontier had been settled. Had we known between 1994 and 2014, when he wrote that essay, what more there was to build, we'd have been so excited. And he wrote in that essay something that I think is very relevant today. He wrote, people in the future are going to look back at their holodecks, their wearable VR contact lenses, their downloadable avatars, their AI interfaces, and say, oh, wow, you didn't even have the internet back then. But right now, he said 2014, I'm saying 2026. It's the best time to start something on the internet. There's never been more opportunities, more openings, lower barriers, higher benefit risk ratios, greater upside than now. Right now, this minute, we will look back and say, oh, to have been alive and well back then. Use these tools to empower me as a passenger. Give me ownership of that journey whilst you're doing all the magic behind the scene. Personalize at scale, because I want to be seen. I want you to understand my preferences. But most of all, enable love. You have all the people and all the tools and all the opportunities to do it right now. Thank you.